We are live. Welcome to the Instantly Show, the daily show on AI go-to-market and the strategies driving real revenue growth. This is the middle of the week, Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Let me actually change up this thing in this corner. You can see there was a little bit of lighting. Now, we do have one guest today. He's going to be showing us off a few very interesting things related specifically to sending cold emails and running the campaigns. His name is Mike Ellis. He is a co-founder of Kale Acquisition, and they ran cold email for companies selling to local and small businesses. Last year, they generated over $4 million in revenue and 18,000 leads for their clients. They sent more than 4 million emails in total. So 4 million in revenue and 4 million emails is like $1 per one email. It's not a bad deal, I guess. And obviously, he's been sharing that the best week, they got 1200, so 1,200 positive replies for a single client, which is a lot. And then again, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about his take on the industry, on the cold emails, the strategies that currently work, the infrastructure, what is working, so you can guys replicate it in your campaigns. Then he is going to show us how he runs a cold email test that actually tells you why campaign is working and why it is not, which is not something that a lot of people talk about, right? So like one thing is to obviously, start a campaign, but then how do you actually test it to prove that it is working or realize what is actually wrong with it? Now, this is the lineup for you to understand. Again, we are having first the mic, then we are doing a tutorial together, and then more with Mike. Okay, super straightforward for you guys. Gravis Robotics raised $200 million from SoftBank at a $1 billion valuation. What they do is they put AI into the construction machines. By the way, I'm not sure if you've being like following the narrative around this, big machines, and not necessarily AI, but AR, artificial reality. And so what was happening is I've been seeing some reels. We'll see if we can pull this on the screen, where like an operator is somewhere, like let's say in the US, and then somewhere in Europe, the excavator is like doing the digging, and you see on the entire screen everything, and you can move it the same way as a human would. Now, the question is here, while I'm saying this, like, what's the point, right? Like, you still need to sit there and you still need to, do the thing. So yes, you can be remote, but so what? I mean, like, what's the leverage, right? Like, to find a cheaper labor or more skilled labor somewhere else instead of finding it locally. Again, I don't think that this is necessarily the case. Maybe for dangerous work, right? For dangerous work, this could be the thing. But they are different because so basically the way they work, it runs as a copilot that gives the operator real-time 3D guidance and hazard warning, or you go full autonomous where operators get out of the machine and just supervises the fleet for them. So it's not like a remote control, but rather either the controlling within this, like 3D guidelines, or they do the remote part. Just like fun. Would love to see the video. I'm sorry that we don't have it. I did want it to pull this off. Now, I did find this video funny right here. So this is non-tech managers. API costs are too high, and they're asking to build its own LLM that would cost probably like hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. And now, this is the second one, which is how the profile writing that act as a ChatGPT Plus, ChatGPT Premium. If you don't have the money to afford a Plus subscription, I guess like you can try and share in the comments if this life hack really worked or not. A company called EXA just took over the Pioneer building in San Francisco, and the list of companies who used it is unreal. Stripe was there, then OpenAI and Alec Radford trained GPT-3 in that building. So the legendary place where everything has started. Then XAI and Elon assembled the Colossus cluster there. So X's founder said Elon's mattress was still laying on the floor when they moved in. XAI is a 5-year-old AI search company started by two Harvard roommates. They do a web search built for agents. They signed for at least 7 years on about 40,000 square feet. And their founder's point was that everyone who passed through that building was infrastructure. Stripe was financial, OpenAI was intelligent, XAI was compute. He says EXA now is the information infrastructure, but it's like 7-year lease. My God. Guess good to have the cash in hand and belief in the company to sign the lease for so long. Good luck to the guys. Reddit started testing narrated post. Narrated, I think. Reddit started to test narrated post. You'll be able to listen to a Reddit thread instead of reading it and have it play in the background while you do something else. For the context, because Reddit already tried audio and it basically failed, they launched Reddit Talk in 2021, a Clubhouse clone. Do you remember Clubhouse, guys? There was a hype around the world for like a few months on the Clubhouse. Everyone wanted to be in the Clubhouse. Was it like, what, like 2021, 2020, something like this? And then they launched the clone and shut it down in 2023. The whole strategy died with it. So Clubhouse collapsed itself. Facebook killed its audio rooms. Spotify killed Green Room, right? So that was kind of like not a good idea. Market didn't really like it. But this is a different bet because Talk was live audio. Strangers talking to strangers. This is reading out the post that already exists, and that format is already proven just not on Reddit. People on TikTok having reading Reddit threads out loud over gameplay footage for years and pulling millions of views. And I've been actually seeing a lot of the Reddit threads reviews on the TikTok and Instagram Reels. I'm not sure if this is kind of related, and the team saw the opportunity, and this is why they are doing something like this. The CEO of Accenture asked employees not to take vacation this month, so the company can, quote, deliver a strong fourth quarter. Now, here's why right now, August specifically, Accenture's financial year ends on August 31st. So this month is the last month of the year, and those numbers are the numbers for the whole year. The offer is that just this once, anybody who skips their vacation days this month can carry them into 2027, which tells you the normal policy is use it or lose it. And on the scale, like obviously Accenture is a huge company, 779,000 employees at the end of last year. So it's not just like some random founder asking employees to not take vacations. It's like 800,000 people. So I mean, of course, not all of them were planning to take a vacation in August, of course, right? But you got the point. So it's the scale is pretty huge. Sam Altman posted that OpenAI has paused some of its frontier training. His words, quote, "We have paused some frontier RL training to ensure that we can meet the appropriate alignment, security, and monitoring standards for the new level of capabilities in front of us." He also said, quote, "Model progress is now extremely rapid, and we always said we would take action if we felt that the model capabilities were outstripping the pace of safety and alignment." I, I don't know. I don't know if this is if I would agree with this, if this is true, but because like it's essentially they are pausing, like in simple terms, like they are posing a certain thing that would help them to grow faster. Of course it's a little thing compared to how big OpenAI is, because they're concerned about how rapid the technology evolves. I think we all already passed the point of being concerned. Like everyone is concerned, so what? No one's gonna do anything regardless. The progress is inevitable. Unfortunately, I think so, and our world needs to deal with that. So this is what they publicly say, but what happens on the back end? Maybe this is something related to the recent, incidents with Hugging Face, with hacking, with the models getting outside of the sandbox, and now they're like don't want to deal with the legal side of the things, but not necessarily the public perception of, oh, let's pause the development because it's evolving extremely fast. I don't know. So just like some big guys playing uh, big games. Anthropic says Claude designed working proteins from scratch, and outside labs confirmed it. So for those of you who don't understand what it means, which is also me, most drugs work by binding to a target in your body and blocking it or changing it. Designing a molecule that binds tightly is the first step. And traditionally, that is weeks or month of expert work per one target. They gave Claude a prompt that was obviously written by a human expert, and it designed binders for 14 out of 15 targets. Then two outside companies physically built and tested them. Out of 1,320 designs, 354 actually bound, which is about 26% hit rate, where the industry standard is around 10. Now, of course, this is not like a published drug developed by AI, nothing that close, but this is just the first step. I am all for it now. Like, sure, as we were talking just in the previous news, AI evolving very fast. So many bad things are gonna happen. Not yet happening, as I believe we're gonna see in the next few years. But the medicine is ridiculous. Yeah, sure, of course. Like big corps are gonna charge for it and try to exploit it as much as possible for the profits. Yeah, I get that. But generally speaking, for the anything related to the health, I'm all for it. So let's cure cancer. Let's do big things. That's gonna be great. 404 Media reported that Amazon is buying rare books, cutting the spines off, and scanning them to train AI. They proved it by putting a tracking device inside a rare book. It ended up at an Amazon facility in Las Vegas that identified itself with a symbol of a dinosaur holding a book. Amazon's statement was that it, quote, purchases books through commercial channels to improve the products and services customers use. The reason old books are valuable is very specific. AI companies have already used up most of what's on the internet, and anything published before 2022 is guaranteed not to have been written by AI. When models train on AI written text, they get worse, which people call model collapse. So a book that was never online is now some sort of the cleanest data that you can find and train the model on. Yeah, rare books again. Like I'm not a big fan. Like heritage is obviously very important, and we want to keep that. Let's see if we have Mike joining us right now. This is going to be great. Oh, guys, please stick around. Now, everyone who is watching us live, we are streaming on YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. Please like and subscribe. This is the first thing. Second thing, in the description, you will find a link to our weekly go-to-market newsletters where we don't spam but publish the latest strategies, what the guests or advising you to do so you have it in the written format, as well as the discounts that you will not find anywhere else. Right now, let me pull this up. My next guest is Mike Ellis, co-founder of Kale Acquisition. They run cold email for companies selling to local and small businesses, which is very interesting. Last year alone, they generated over $4 million in revenue and 18,000 leads for their clients, and they've sent more than 4 million emails in total. It's interesting, 4 million emails, $4 million, like $1 per email. I mean, it's not a bad deal. Their best week was 1,200 positive replies for a single client. Obviously, he is deep inside the industry infrastructure. He has a lot of insights to share. Mike, can you hear us? Can you see us? Welcome to the show.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Look, so according to your profile, you dropped out of engineering, and your co founder did finish a degree, went to Nokia, and then came and joined you. So the question is, who made the right decision? You dropping out or the founder staying in?
I think we both made the right decision for our individual case. Rashawn went on to be software engineer at Nokia. He did really well there. I realized when I was surrounded by my peers that I could maybe be a good engineer. I didn't think I would ever, be a great one. Basically, I had a lot of interest in things like psychology. I'd already kind of dipped my toes into sales and things like that. And so I had started a house painting company with my a couple of my friends at the time actually. And I was making enough money that I was like, you know what, man, I think I'm just gonna do this instead. That's enough school for me.
That's interesting. That's interesting. When I was reading your bio, I said that you work with local and small businesses, which is usually not what we hear when it comes to cold outbound agencies. So, can you please explain, like, how exactly? So, are you working in sending emails on the behalf of local businesses to their customers, or how does that work?
It's the opposite. So we only work with companies who target local and small businesses. And the benefit
Okay.
of that, right? So I can see you nodding your head,
Yeah, I
right?
got
And
that.
so the benefit of that is one, there's a lot of opportunity with owner operated businesses in terms of from a competition perspective. A lot of these people get a lot less emails. They're a bit harder to get the data for. Traditional data solutions are built largely off of LinkedIn data, and these customers aren't typically on LinkedIn. For us, for example, it took us a couple years to show up on databases like Apollo and things like that, where we were just kind of getting things up and running. And so we basically found that at the beginning we worked with a bunch of different types of companies, and we just sort of naturally saw the trend of it seems like we are doing the best. I ran a local business myself for a time, and so I think that gave me some additional context that has been helpful as well to sort of get inside the mind of these people. And so where other companies have specialized on helping a particular type of company, i.e. like people working with only software companies or
Mostly, yeah.
right, right. And so for us, I found that we could provide more value helping a broad category of different business types that focus on targeting one ICP because gained a lot of data in terms of like how these people make decisions, how they purchase things, what they care about, etc. And so I've found that over time that knowledge has compounded pretty significantly. And at this point, I can be pretty confident looking at a campaign or a company and knowing if we're going to be able to do a good job or not, which I think has been a big part of why our stats are so solid. You had mentioned that we got 18,000 positive replies all last year, which is correct. This year we've sent 3.3 million emails and we've gotten something like 34,000 positive replies. So we're averaging 1 in 100 across our entire client portfolio this year, which I think has only been possible because of that like client selection piece, honestly.
Everyone who is watching us live, please do not click off because in about 5 to 7 minutes, Mike is gonna walk us through how he thinks about testing a campaigns and seeing if it works or how to fix that. So, Mike, you changed your inbox rotation from 4 weeks to 3 weeks, which seems like a little fix. And then you said that your results almost doubled. So, why did that work and what was the thought process behind it?
So we do a couple, I think we do a lot of things that are similar to other agencies, but then there's a couple things I think we do different. So I think it's pretty commonplace to have a backup set of infrastructure to
Of
rotate
course.
in when something, dips out. For us, we always just honestly at the beginning it really just came down to a matter of simplicity. It's like rather than waiting for box performance to degrade, why not just buy twice as much as we need, rotate them out on a schedule? Because we basically realized that even if you quote unquote burn a box, typically if you rest them for long enough, they're going to recover. You're going to be able to reuse them. One of the other things that we do is we actually don't buy branded email accounts for any of our clients. So all of our domain, like all of our emails would look like Eugene at eugeneoutreach.com. And the benefit of that is we don't ever need to really like get rid of infrastructure. So we can reuse different email sending accounts across different clients, which has allowed us over the years to accumulate very well aged sending infrastructure to the point where we now have something like 4 or 5 thousand boxes, some of which are like 3 years old, that we've just been maintaining on this inactive period. But earlier this year, I started to realize that around the end of that 4 week mark, I started to see a dip in performance. We know for a fact that sending to basically non workspace emails, so like an at gmail.com and at outlook.com, they are more sensitive to outreach. And so the performance will drop quicker. This is especially relevant for us because we reach out to local businesses, a lot of which use those types of email accounts. And so basically on a whim, I'm like, why not? Let's just try to rotate it in 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. And so basically over two of those updated sort of compressed 3 week cycles, we started to see results just get better and better to the point where they basically had 2x from a previous point in the year with no other measurable changes that I could find. My theory on that was twofold. One is that we skipped the last few days of the lower performance. I prefer this setup. It's a bit more expensive. I prefer this setup over waiting for box performance to degrade because again, if you're sending 15 emails per inbox, there's a lot of statistical variance that can happen there that makes it really difficult to actually make a decision of like, did we just have a bad day or is there actually a problem with this inbox? And so we try to skip that entirely by just not waiting for the performance to degrade. So we missed those last few days of worst performance. And then I think the other thing is if we apply that same logic of like, okay, inbox performance goes down, we warm them for a few weeks, and then it kind of returns to baseline. So we're kind
Hmm.
of going from here to here, and then it warms and then kind of creeps back up. It could be that because we're now basically not even getting close to the performance degrading, we're just going from active sending straight back to warm up, that the deliverability on the boxes may actually be improving over time. And again, it's this is all theories at the end of the day. Like, I mean, you know as well as I do. Like, it's not like Google and Microsoft are exactly handing out the secrets for
Yeah.
how to inbox properly with them. But that's the best theories I had. So figured it was worth sharing at the very least.
Can I expect you to be very honest?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to general mailboxes, where
Uh,
you have some random company name and possibly a random person messaging on the behalf of a company, this is what you do, and it works great for you. Would you actually recommend something like this for a company that only runs a campaign for themselves? So does it have a slightly worse performance, but because on the long term horizon you are, switching it constantly, it works for you as an agency. But will it work for like a regular company that is doing a go to market?
Yeah, so what I'll say is we tested this early because we didn't always do this. And so we had a couple clients where we had initially bought branded infrastructure. What we were doing actually is we bought the unlabeled, the generic stuff because we were using it for some of our own outreach. We stopped doing that. And so we had the infrastructure and we're like, okay, let's just like test this with you guys. Performed more or less the same. I think the only I think if you're a company that is doing this, there's definitely less of a purpose of having the anonymized infrastructure. It's like, why would you bother? Uh, Based on our ICP as well, these are probably less sophisticated buyers than like a CEO of a 500-person company, so they might care more about it as well. Like, I don't know the math on the sort of the higher um, employee count, people who kind of live at their laptop type outreach.
Yeah,
What I would say is that we do know that these domain providers and Google, Microsoft have made it harder to deliver. And so I know a lot of people are trying to introduce variability into their domain names so that it's harder to like connect the infrastructure, if that makes sense. So
exactly.
if you have instantly, if you guys are sending 10,000 emails a day, and you have instantly AI in like every single domain, it's a lot easier for the domain provider, inbox provider to be like, okay, come on, like you're the same
Something is
guy.
going on.
Like give
Yeah.
me a break. You're the same guy. Sometimes I'll have customers be like, we had somebody reach out and they weren't sure if this was us or whatever. And so in certain cases, we've actually put like company name partner in the signature instead of the actual company. And like that's worked fine with no impact on performance. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. To your point, our process has been built so that we can offer a great service
Of
to
course.
a variety of clients. And so, would I give the exact same advice to a company who's just running this themselves? Probably not, but I would still say that like having a good amount of variation in the sending domains is best, just because we never really know what's going to happen. So, as much making it as hard as possible for the ESPs to be able to like detect what you're doing, I think is best. Like mimic normal human behavior as much as you possibly can is kind of the guiding principle.
That's great. Can you please start sharing the screen? I will just make sure people can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone who is watching us live, please, first, in the description, you'll find a link to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Two, if you have any questions to Mike, he is giving you a lot of sauce. Please put it in the comments, and we'll have a separate Q&A section where we can answer all of your questions. So please don't be shy. Okay, let me see. I do see your screen. While I'm pulling this off, can you explain what you're going to be showing?
Yeah, so I am going to be talking about how to just run good cold email tests. I thought a lot about what I wanted to do for this show that would basically provide value to operators of their own agencies, also to potential clients of ours that, again, to your point, maybe just trying to run them themselves.
Yes.
And so I wanted to go through one of the things that I think we do really well as an agency that I think will be valuable for pretty much everybody that will be watching.
Great, we can see your screen. So how to run cold email test that actually teach you something.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So, as I mentioned, I think I have a bit of an unusual background for someone operating cold email programs. Again, I studied engineering. The biggest thing I took away from that was the sort of experimental design and the application of the scientific method. Then I went into sales and marketing, which was really just like scratching the itch that I had for psychology. And the big takeaways there is just really understanding how humans think and recognizing that all people basically run on the same like fundamental operating system. And so today, what I'm going to go over is how we basically combine these two disciplines to run cold email tests that produce results now, but also make the next campaign smarter.
Let's
And
go.
so I think the thing I want to start with is one of the biggest debates in outbound that I think the industry frames incorrectly. And it's kind of this idea of like the scalpel versus the cannon. And so people fall into two camps on this. One says use a scalpel, so segment aggressively, research every prospect, make the list the message. And then the other says, like spam the TAM is kind of the tagline for the other group. I think both of these are really extreme ends, but they both share something important. And so my belief is that cold email is as powerful of a channel as it is because of the scale. You cannot cold call, 15,000 people a day. I mean, I guess you could,
You
but not as not
technically, I
as
mean,
cheap,
you can technically,
not
but
as
yeah.
cheaply as cold email, right? Yeah. And so, but if you do that volume, but you don't have a good analysis framework in place, it just creates a lot of noise. On the other end, hypersegmentation before you have any evidence creates a lot of additional and unnecessary complexity and creates an environment where you end up with a lot of information, but not enough statistical like weight to actually be able to make well-informed decisions. And so our approach is really to basically use the volume to discover the relevance, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
And so I'm gonna show you a situation why that matters. And so I think everybody that's run cold email can relate to this. But like, how many times have you run a campaign? You see one variation outperform, and you're like, awesome, this is the winner. You turn off the rest of the variations, and then for some reason that one just like gets worse, right? I think this has happened to most people that have done this for long enough. And so I think commonplace is to reach for the operational explanation. So like fingerprinting, is it deliverability? Is it fatigue? All these things are possible, but another potential area that I've seen many times is that the initial sample contained an audience pattern that you never measured. And so imagine variant B initially went, let's say you're running like a local marketing offer.
Okay.
Variant B initially went disproportionately to HVAC companies who happen to be particularly receptive to this offer. And so B looks like the winning message, not because the message is better, but because they had a larger amount of this audience, but you weren't measuring it. And so now we shut the offers off, funnel all the volume through B, but now you've got a much more representative sample of the total audience. And so as a result, the performance now drops towards what the actual average is. And so this is kind of like the winner's curse. It's you select the best result based on the data you have, but you don't actually have enough data to make the correct decision. And so like the worst version of this is it doesn't work and you don't know why. The slightly worse version of this is it works and you don't know why. Because then you can't really improve on it because you don't have enough information to do so.
Or
And so
basically
go
what
ahead.
you're saying is it doesn't work and you assume that it doesn't work because of X, but in reality, so as with your example, the offer might not be relevant to a specific segment that the emails were sent to. So this doesn't necessarily mean that the offer is bad, the infrastructure is bad. It's just that it was not done correctly when it comes to testing and measurements.
That's right. And so we're going to get to this exact point
Yeah.
later in the presentation of like basically how to guard against this. But yeah, the main takeaway here is like running four variations doesn't automatically make it a meaningful test. This is, I think, why so many people get stuck in the early steps of trying to build a cold outbound program because that's when you have the least amount of data, right?
Hmm.
It's like you don't know who your ICP, maybe you know who your ICP is because you have a good product, but maybe you don't know what they respond to on a cold channel. Like there's so many different variables. And so it's not efficient to try to like create a bunch of different variants. Let's say you wanted to test five different messaging and five different audiences. That's 25 separate campaigns you got to test. So like That's also very inefficient, makes it harder to look at the data. And so we need a more complete testing process that allows us to focus on what we believe to be the highest impact variable based on the information we have, but also collect all of this other data that we believe can basically have an impact, right? And so the process we follow has 6 stages. We define the business goal. We start with a representative market. I'm going to define all this in the later slides. Deliberately test a small number of high impact variables, preserve the other dimensions for analysis. You turn emergent patterns into controlled tests, and then you promote validated campaigns into production. And I'll go through that concept as well. But the most important thing here is every test has to have an exit. You must close the loop and have a clear expectation for what's going to happen. It's basically going to be some version of like kill the campaign, derive a hypothesis from it that informs the next campaign, or it's like good, it's basically going to get us to our goals. And so we're going to promote it to production. We're going to shift more sending volume there and like scale it up basically.
Hmm.
And so the first part of this process, I think, is also the one a lot of teams skip, which is that whether you're an agency or a company, I can pretty much guarantee like your CRO isn't like, we need 1,000 positive replies this year. It's like, no, you need this many deals or this much revenue, et cetera. And so you want to start with the actual destination, work backwards based on, if you want to make $5 million this year, how many customers is that? How many meetings is that? How many positive replies is that? How many sends is that? And if you, the reason why this is so important is if you don't know where you're going, you're definitely not going to get there. So,
Plus, most
this,
likely, you don't know
yeah,
like what's the conversion is going to be when it comes to like positive replies to the to the meetings and then to the sales. Not necessarily even talking about like what's going to be the positive reply rate in general when you were starting out. You don't know any of
yeah,
these variables.
no, exactly. And I think generally speaking, like, yes, you're 100% right that that's the case. I think you should do your best to try to get um, approximations. And so if I was working with a company, I'm basically trying to find as many proxies as I can to again, like this whole thing is a very scientific process. It's like you have a hypothesis, you run an experiment, that gives you the data to create the next hypothesis, run the next experiment. And so if I'm working with a company and they already have, a cold calling motion or a Facebook ads motion, I can like use the meeting set rate and the close rate as a general proxy for what we can expect, understanding there's likely going to be some variation. Similarly, if I run a campaign to a similar TAM or with a similar offer, I can like get a general approximation of where I think it's going to fall, and then you just kind of like adjust the math as you go and as you sort of collect more data. But the reason why this is important to figure out early is because the scope of what you're trying to accomplish has a large impact on how much evidence each test needs. So again, if I take the example, let's just say $1 million for easy math.
Hmm.
Let's say our positive reply rate's like 1%.
Yep.
And we're like, we want to send 1,000 emails. It's like, okay, well, you're going to get 10 positive replies. So if you have a good day on Thursday and you get three, it's like, is now Thursday like the best time to send? It's no, it's just way too small of an amount of data to make any sort of assumption off of. And so this is probably one of the bigger reasons to sort of set your goals early. This is also why we start all of our clients at 50,000 cents per month. So we do not do less than that. 50,000 is the minimum per
Five
month.
zero 50.
550. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so and we're typically like 50,000 sends, one step sequence. We're just trying to collect as much data as quickly as possible. If you want to layer on step twos and like do all this other stuff afterwards, you can. But the goal in the beginning is to collect as much data as possible to better inform our hypotheses as we go. And this is what I mentioned earlier, this doesn't mean that you need to segment those 50,000 sends into like 100 different campaigns, right? And so what we do instead, because I have a lot of people, this question comes up all the time in sales. It's like, oh, which part of this market are you going to start with? Who are you going to do this? It's like the thing I always start with is testing offer, I think, is the number one most important thing outside of the stuff that we are very comfortable with covering, like deliverability, etc. And then we try to grab a representative, like, piece of the market, if that makes sense. So if your offer is serving, I don't know, like food restaurants, then we would want to target fast food, like sit down restaurants, coffee shops, bakeries, like basically everything that would fall within that TAM. We try to be really deliberate with having a relatively even distribution of the cohort. At the same time, we are basically storing all of the major dimensions that we think might have an impact on performance, even though that's not exactly what's being tested in the campaign. So again, business type, geography for local businesses, where did we source the data from, what's the size of the
And
company, what's the email type,
l-
like as much data as we can possibly collect, which is what allows us to move on to the next step. But
let
Eugene,
me
I
pause
know
you
you
for
have.
a second. So yeah, I mean, of course, when it comes to like the business type, company size, like source, this is the more understandable task when it comes to the lead list, right? Like you can split it across the campaigns and super straightforward. But now, like when it comes to like the offer, the problem, outcome, when we're talking about, let's say, like a software that is offering the outcome of make sure that you are full booked and all of the reservations are properly handled, or it's like a marketing agency that is say, hey, like fill out all of your spots on Thursday's morning, right? Whatever. So they have one offer, and basically, is this correct when I'm assuming when you say like you test, offer, problem, outcome? This is just basically like the different variations of saying the same thing in different like campaigns variations.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question. I think Um, you're right. I'm gonna separate the company offer and the front end offer because they're two different things. So, how you sell an offer and how you get somebody to reply positively do not have to be the same thing. And so, generally speaking, there's a couple factors that I think about that go into this, but like more expensive the product is, the larger the complexity of implementation, the done do it yourself type services, basically where there's a lot of friction. You want to try to minimize as much of that as possible on the front end. And so even if you're the company that again you're trying to do outbound for, whether it's your own or you're an agency, has a very simple sort of like one-off offer, right? Like let's
Mm-hmm.
say that their main tool is, yeah, they help you convert Facebook ads into meetings or something
Okay.
like that.
Yep.
How you frame the front end offer can be very different. So it could be a, we'll do this for you for free. You could offer a free trial. You could ask them to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
could say, we're going to give this to you for free for 3 months, you and like 10 other people, and like measure the performance. So you like almost position it as a competition. And so when I say offer, and I appreciate you for sort of checking me on this because it's an important distinction. When I say offer in this context, I'm specifically referencing what you are offering to give that person in exchange for a positive reply.
So like
And
an
that can be
entrance,
very different.
basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Yeah. And
That's great.
so that's definitely an important distinction. The other thing I'll mention is depending on what you're selling, the different dimensions that you want to measure may be different. And so the product that I just mentioned, the Facebook ads conversion thing, it's like you may want to try and gather data on how much people, like how much they're spending on ads, how many active ads they have right now. And so this is going to be different depending on what sort of offer you have. The goal is to basically define what are all the things that we think could have an impact on who this person is and how they make decisions. And rather than having to segment all of those into different campaigns, you are just storing the data so that you can analyze it after you've basically ran the sort of like core campaigns, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
Okay, sweet. And
Let's
so,
just make a little bit faster moves. We have a few more minutes left when it comes
Yeah,
to the tutorial. And by the way, anyone who is watching right now, you will be able to either message Mike if you have any questions or comment down below, or we will put a presentation of this exactly in the description so you can go through that yourself.
perfect. The last thing I'll say on this slide is that, yeah, the only time I'll typically segment based on audience is when you have a meaningfully different thing to offer to the person. So if you're able to split your TAM in such a way that you're offering something that's fundamentally different, you're not just like changing the company name or like the business type within the copy, then that could warrant a different campaign, basically, if the copy changes a
Got
lot.
it. Got it.
Okay, so for the next piece, so this kind of falls back on that same example that I did earlier, but I want to sort of build out how this would actually look. So suppose offer A generates twice as many positive replies as everything else. The easy conclusion is that A won, right? But the first question is like, what are the characteristics of the people that receive it? So maybe 80% of A's exposure was HVAC, 80% of its positive replies were HVAC, while HVAC was actually a very small portion of the other treatments. And so now this is where this framework is so helpful because it creates now a couple different hypotheses that you can use to inform the next test. And basically what we come to is two things. One, HVAC responds well to every offer, but we haven't been able to test it because most of them were in
Hmm.
this one variant, or variant A is better. And so if you were to design the next phase of the test, this has the most signal, then what that's going to allow you to do is basically just like you start to generate these emergent hypotheses. And the more you collect data, the more you collect evidence, the stronger these sort of get over time. And so this is also points to one of the most important principles of something like this, which you will never be able to act with 100% certainty. Even if we do a phenomenal job tracking all the variables we can, you might discover that there are variations that can't be explained by the variables you have. Maybe you're missing variables. Maybe there's stuff that you're unable to track, but ultimately, what we're trying to do is just strengthen our hypotheses over time. And then once a motion survives that additional evidence, the job changes. I'll go through this one quickly, but the way we run it is we are basically, once we find a test that can support the initial goal that we outlined, for us, that would be here would basically be our fee to like send this many emails. What is that actually like? What's the fully loaded cost considering like the SDR cost, the salespeople cost? Does this get us to the goal that we want to do if we just sent like 300,000 emails with all the costs considered? Does that get us to a good ROI? And so then we shift into production where we're not trying to derive new insights from the campaigns. We're simply just trying to measure the shift in performance. And so if we see a campaign shift over like 10 to 20% on a given week, then we'll do the deep dive again. But once they're in production, the goal is to like basically park those campaigns that are creating results, refocus our efforts into testing new hypotheses that are coming out of the stuff we're doing. And so I focused a lot on the positive reply piece, but you should the way we think about this is pretty much in sequence. So the first thing we want to crack is the sends to PR ratio because that's what's going to allow us to work on the other stuff. So again, like the PR to the booking rate, the booking rate to the sale, basically all of the stuff that's in the funnel that you would want to track. And so we're basically then applying the same process. So let's say we have two SDRs and Sally is converting far more leads to meetings than Jimmy is.
Okay.
And so the first conclusion is Sally's the better rep. But then we do the analysis and we see, oh, Sally's responding in 5 minutes and Jimmy's responding in 3 hours. So you weren't measuring the right thing. And so now the better hypothesis is that either like Sally's a better rep, or speed to lead drives more meeting conversions. And I use this example because we know for a fact that that's probably that's probably the thing. And this points to why attribution is such an important part of this. And this is the last piece of the presentation here. And so if you're going to run a good test, clear attribution has to exist from the beginning. You need to connect the original send all the way through to the closed deal Otherwise, you might know that 50,000 emails produce 20 deals, but you don't know which offer created them, which business types created revenue rather than replies. You know, maybe you have one segment gets a 10x the positive replies, but they make 5 times less the money because this other one just spends more money, or like whatever it would maybe. Because this is ultimately what we're trying to solve. We're not trying to solve a positive replies problem. We're trying to solve a revenue problem. And so to summarize here, reach creates evidence, testing discovers that relevance, production is what allows it to scale and sustain it, and then the attribution is what connects it to the actual business outcomes that the business you're working with or the business that you're running this for actually cares about. And so if you're able to implement and run a system that checks all these boxes, you're going to be left with a revenue engine that actually compounds over time and allows you to hit your goals, whatever they may be. So that's all I got.
A
How did I do on time?
phenomenal presentation. Look, like so much data. Like for example, for me, I loved your quote and explanation on the fact that we love cold emails because this is such an efficient channel that allows you to scale and test hypotheses very fast, find the winners,
Yeah.
but only if you have, the proper attribution, the proper testing, the proper framework. Look, this is very, very good. The last piece of the show is going to be me shooting questions to you very fast, which is called a blitz, and you either fast reply or expand on your answer. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Google or Microsoft inboxes?
Google.
2 inboxes or 4 per domain?
2.
Subdomain or root domain?
Root domain.
H domain or new domain?
I mean, aged is better, but like new still performs great.
Is there a way to put a link in a cold email and have a good performance?
Not that we've found out.
Do you use spin tags?
Yeah, for sure.
Spin tags or personalization?
Honestly, spin tax. Personalization's overrated.
How many follow-ups do you do?
Absolute max 1. Most of the time, none.
One.
Absolute max, yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna expand on this too,
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
super quick. We work with companies who have massive TAMs for one. So it's like we really don't need to send follow-ups. If you're sending a two-step sequence and your second step is performing better, it will perform better if you just make it your first step. Like I know Eric, who a lot of people know, has talked a lot about this concept too. And so for us, our whole goal is like, let's just find an offer that bangs and then send it basically the same thing like once every few months.
Yeah.
If that's sort of like the limit of the TAM. And we found that that's just like the best way to find performance.
Would you take a client selling to enterprise?
No, we have a lot of great referral partners in our network. I would refer them out.
Best thing instantly shipped in the last 12 months.
Best thing instantly shipped in the last 12 months. Ooh, I don't know. I forget the name of it. The instantly AI agent is super cool. Our TAM is notoriously difficult to map because it's based on who the people we want to reach out to are serving rather than the product.
Yeah.
And I found instantly's like AI agent, like Finder tool, was incredibly good. The best tool I've ever tried at finding our specific ICP, which I've had a very difficult time with.
Atava forever, or would you rather move somewhere else?
Apollo?
Atava. Or,
Octava.
or
What's
oh
that?
wait. So this is my pronunciation. So the where you live, where
Oh, bro, that's so outdated. That's where I went to school. I spend like 90% of the time in South America. I'm going to Brazil on Friday
but
for
how
like
do you
four
pronounce
months.
it?
Ottawa.
Ottawa. It's like my
Yeah.
God. Okay, so
So
people are
Ottawa,
hating
definitely not
for this.
Ottawa, not forever. Definitely not forever. It's cold as shit there.
Okay. What do you do when you're not staring at deliverability dashboards?
Oh man, that's pretty much all I do is stare at deliverability dashboards. I like to go to the gym. I like to spend outside time outside, away from the screen. place I'm moving to has a beach, so I'll probably do some surfing while I'm down there. Big
Yeah.
fan of board sports. Um, but yeah, honestly, dude, like it's just been 6, 7 days a week. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to get this stuff up and running, provide a good service.
Right. Look, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Where people can find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I don't remember my handle, but if you look up
Yeah,
like
we
Ellis,
will post it
yeah,
everywhere.
you'll
Yeah,
find it. Kaleacquisition.com. We have the last thing we did with Instantly, that the live show we did with them like a year ago is on there as well.
sure.
Um, but yeah, honestly, LinkedIn is kind of where I'm posting the majority of my content. So if you want the sauce on how we're doing all this cool stuff for our clients, that's the best bet.
All good. Look, I appreciate you coming to the show.
Hey
Take
man, I appreciate the invite. It's a pleasure as always. Love the Instantly team. Love what you guys are doing. We're yeah, we're like forever customers of you
for
guys,
your
and
friends.
I'll always vouch on your behalf. So
Good, good.
thanks so
Okay.
much, man.
We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, guys. So that was Mike, a very productive conversation. Look, see, different guests, right? So this one was giving a very, very technical insights on durability, which is a super specific topic to the people who are running campaigns, usually at scale. And I know a lot of you do that. So I hope you do appreciate it. Now, we didn't have much questions right now. Maybe you can save it and rewatch it afterwards. Have the questions. We're gonna repost it everywhere. If you do have a questions, again, post it somewhere and we will get back to you. Live every day, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. In the description right now, you'll find a link to our weekly newsletter where we share the strategies that work right now, as well as what our guests are mentioning. Plus, you're gonna have the discounts that you will not find anywhere else. Look, guys, so we'll see you tomorrow on Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and you have a good one.